3, 2, 1. Good morning once again, and God bless everybody. This is once again Pastor James M. Lawson, hailing from Groveport, Ohio. Welcome to the new revolution, John chapter 3, verse 18. Join the revolution. Anyway, moving on, because I still got a lot to cover. Today's date is still Monday, April the 20th of 2015, just to put a date on all of my videos. And we are still looking at, this is video number 4 of a whole new series, a spin-off series called Satan Was Not an Angel, or Shocking News, Satan Was Not an Angel. In parentheses, a deeper look into Isaiah chapter 14. Okay, so, like I said, I got lots and lots to cover, and man, oh man, I didn't believe I'd be having this many videos just to cover all this stuff. Picking up exactly where I left off, we're going right back to the notes, the Wikipedia notes. So refer back to Wikipedia that I showed you guys all the way back in video number 1. The next paragraph. Christians who identify Lucifer with Satan or the devil. That's where I left off. That's where I'm beginning to read right now. Adherents of the King James only movement. In other words, let me pause this real quick. In other words, this is the movement where people only recognize the King James Bible. They shun every other Bible. They say every other Bible is incorrect. And they even go as far as saying that if you're not reading the King James Bible, well, then you're just not reading the Bible, and therefore you're not saved, so on and so forth. You know, I don't believe in that. I'm not an adherent to the King James only movement. I have explained many times in many of my videos that I particularly use the King James Bible, but I do not view it as the only Bible, the one and only, that you should only use that, but I don't, whatever. Moving on. That was a side note. Adherents to the King James only movement and others who hold that Isaiah 14:12 does indeed refer to the devil, has derived the modern translation, has decried the modern translations, treating Lucifer as a name for the devil or Satan. They may use that name when speaking of such accounts of the devil or as Satan as the following. Number 1, citing David to number Israel, found in 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. Number 2, Job tested by Satan, book of Job. Number 3, Satan ready to accuse the high priest Joshua, that is found in Zechariah chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. Number 4, sin brought into the world through the devil's envy. That is found in a pseudepigrapha book called Wisdom. Not found in the regular Bible, a pseudepigrapha book. You can find it again in a lot of Catholic Bibles. Wisdom, chapter 2, verse 24. Number 5, the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. Ephesians, cut it off. No, I did not. Yes, I did. Anyway, it's in Ephesians. Another example, the god of this world, the devil, disputing with Michael about the body of Moses, found in Jude 1:9. The dragon of the book of Revelation, who is called the devil and Satan, found in Revelations chapter 12, verses 9, and Revelations chapter 20, verse 2. They may also use the name Lucifer when speaking of Satan's motive for rebelling and of the nature of sin, which origin Chrysostom, Jerome, Ambrose, and Augustine attributed to the devil's pride. And Irenaeus, Tertullian, Justin Martyr, Cyprian, and again Augustine attributed to the devil's envy of humanity, created in the image of God, jealousy of humans, created in the divine image and given authority over the world, is the motive that a modern writer who denies that there is any such person as Lucifer says that Tertullian attributed to the devil, and while he cited Tertullian and Augustine as giving envy as the motive for the fall, an 18th century French Capuchin preacher himself described the rebel angel as jealous of Adam's exaltation, which he saw as a diminution of his own status. Now, real quickly, I want to show you this actually on the screen. And get that screen back up here. Get it completely back up here. Moving down the screen. This is still the Wikipedia. I just got to move all the way down to the scene. Okay, here is the screen. As you're scrolling down the screen in that Wikipedia reference that I gave you guys earlier, the next paragraph, actually the last two paragraphs, is occultism and Taxil's hoax. Okay, I wanted to show you that on the computer, on Wikipedia, so that, once again, you're not thinking that I just made this up. I printed it off, just like I have everything else, so that I could read it easily on paper. That's the seal. The seal of Lucifer as a the seal of Lucifer, a magical sigil used occasionally as an emblem by Satanists. Remember, this is under occultism, okay? Not Christian, occultism. Luciferianism is a belief system that venerates the essential characteristics that are affixed to Lucifer. The tradition influenced by Gnosticism usually reveres Lucifer not as the devil, but as a liberator or guiding spirit, or even the true God, as opposed to, they have the name Jehovah there. I don't use the name Jehovah. I don't recognize the name Jehovah. I use the name Yahweh, because the Hebrew language, the letter J never shows up in Hebrew language. So in the Hebrew language, the name Jehovah never shows up. It is Yahweh. That's why I use Yahweh. In Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible, Lucifer is one of the 4 crown princes of hell, particularly that of the east, Lord of the air, and is called bringer of light. The morning star, intellectualism, enlightenment. Author Michael W. Ford, so there's another name, another reference that Wikipedia uses, was written on Lucifer as a mask of the adversary, a motivator and illuminating force of the mind and subconscious. The Greater Church of Lucifer explains the word Lucifer is used literally and not changed to fit the modern folklore built up around Christian ideology. Lucifer is a word that means bringer of light and is used to describe the phenomenon known as the morning star. Since time immemorial, I hope I said it right, light has been used as a symbol for knowledge and awareness. The most basic concepts can be used to build up an entire philosophy from first principles. One can become a bringer of light to all around them and thereby act as a Lucifer in the world. Luciferianism has evolved several unique subjective views, including one shared by Itu Malku called the primacy of darkness, which states that a single-mindedness and the annihilation of opposites is not the answer, but the synthesis of opposites may be. Okay, Traxxas hoax, the next paragraph down. Leo Taxil, 1854 through 1907 AD, obviously, claimed that Freemasonry is associated with worshiping Lucifer in what is known as the Taxil hoax. He alleged that leading Freemason Albert Pike had addressed the 23 Supreme Confederate Councils of the world, an invention of Taxil, instructing them that Lucifer was God, and was in opposition to the evil god Adonai. That's another Hebrew name for God, one of the 72 names for gods, another Hebrew name of God. Supporters of Freemasonry contend that when Albert Pike and other Masonic scholars spoke about the Luciferian path, or the energies of Lucifer, they were referring to the morning star, the light bearer. The search for light, the very antithesis of dark satanic evil, Taxil promoted a book by Diana Vaughan, actually written by himself, as he was later confessed publicly, that supported to reveal a highly secret ruling body called the Palladium, which controlled the organization and had a satanic agenda described by Freemasonry, disclosed in 1897. Next page. When frightening cynicism, the miserable person we shall not name here, Taxil, declared before an assembly especially convened for him for that 12 years that he had prepared and carried out the end of the most sacrilegious hoaxes. We have always been careful to publish special articles concerning Palladism and Diana Vaughan. We are now giving in this issue a complete list of these articles, which can be considered not as not having existed. Sorry, having trouble. Taxil's work on Pike's address continued to be quoted by anti-Masonic groups. Now, having covered that, I wish that there is something that I really want to say and make a proclamation about this. Okay, the occultists get it. The Freemasons get it. They do not see Lucifer, the word Lucifer, referred to in Isaiah chapter 14:12 as referring to the devil. It is not their system. So, what bothers me is that if the occultists get it and Freemasons get it, why can't Christians get it? Why is it that Christians want to hold on to those man-made traditions and not open their eyes and see the truth? I don't get that. You know, which is why many of you may know this, may not know this, but a lot of pagans, a lot of witches, Wiccans, occultists, Satanists, Freemasons, whatever, all the whole grouping of, well, different religions, different societies, different groups of people, they actually look at the stupidity and the narrow-mindedness and blindness of most Christians and laugh Christians to scorn. Because the Christians just are not getting it, and they do. That to me is hilarious. These people are pagans, and they're doing all these, different systems of religion, all these different pagan systems of religion, but they get it. And so they laugh at Christians who don't get it. That's just ironic. I just had to say that, folks. That is so funny. That is so very funny. Okay, let's move on. Now, at this particular time, we were looking at only one particular Wikipedia file. Okay. Now, there is another Wikipedia file that I am going to introduce at this time. Boom. And how I found this file, if you guys can read this screen, I don't know if you can or not, I'm trying to get it as close as I can. Under Google, I simply ask the question, and I wrote this word for word, who was the first person to introduce the idea of Satan being an angel? That is what I typed in under Google, so you can type that in yourself, or you can simply type in fallen angel, because that is where it's found in Wikipedia. There's the file, if you guys can see it. Fallen Angel Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. So, we already looked at one Wikipedia file. Now we're looking at another Wikipedia file titled Fallen Angel. And again, to make it easier, I have printed it off on paper so that I can make it a lot easier to read. Now, I didn't start at the very top. I started a little bit further down under, a different paragraph, in other words, is what I'm saying. Boom, boom, boom. You'll see Watchers, Grigori, First Enoch, Slavonic Enoch. I started with this paragraph here. Satan, and then underneath it, another paragraph, Christianity. That is where I started. That is what I found most relevant to cover. The rest of it was good, but just not relevant enough for me to actually cover it. Under the paragraph, Satan. The Hebrew Bible personifies Satan as a character in only 3 places, always inferior to God's power. It portrays him as, number 1, an accuser. Zechariah chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. Number 2, a seducer. 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. And then number 3, or a heavenly persecutor. Job chapter 2, verse 1. It uses the Hebrew word which means adversary elsewhere to speak of human opponents, or some evil. Now, if you will recall and remember, and I'm going to reference back my original 4 videos, I believe it was in the 4th video, where I talk about Satan's actual real origins and how God created him as an evil being because God has use for a devil. And I went and explained these. It is amazing to me that I got that, and I got it really kind of from Steve Gregg. And then I kind of ad-libbed myself. But it is interesting that I did all that without even ever having knowledge of this article found in Wikipedia. But this article in Wikipedia says the exact same things that I said in my video number 4. That Satan was an accuser, a seducer, and a heavenly persecutor. That fact to me is just awe-inspiring. That Wikipedia backs up what I said without me even having the knowledge of Wikipedia when I made those videos. Just an interesting fact. Reading on in the notes. Okay, back to where I gotta go backwards a little bit. It uses the Hebrew word which means adversary elsewhere to speak of human opponents or some evil influence, and does not say that Satan is an angel nor that he is fallen. However, the Oxford Dictionary of the Jewish Religion states that Satan appears in Jewish pseudepigrapha, especially apocalypses, as a ruler of a demonic host influencing events throughout the world, cast out of heaven as a fallen angel, ascribes the idea of Satan as a fallen angel to a misinterpretation of Isaiah 14:12. The paragraph, Christianity. In Christianity, Satan is often seen as a leader of the fallen angels. The New Testament mentions Satan 36 times in 33 verses, and the book of Revelation tells of that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, being thrown down to the earth together with his angels. That's the NIV version. In Luke 10:18, the NIV version, Jesus says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. While the New Testament thus mentions Satan falling from heaven, it never says that he was an angel. Only that he masquerades as one. This is, I don't remember if I covered it. I think I did, but I know for sure Steve Gregg covered it. Where I'm talking about where the devil goes around and masquerades as an angel of light is in 2 Corinthians 11:14. Okay, however, the concept of fallen angels is not foreign to the New Testament. Both 2 Peter 2:24 and Jude 1:6 refers to angels who have sinned against God and await punishment on Judgment Day. Dagon and his angels. This is the next paragraph down. Dagon and his angels. In the New Testament, Revelations chapter 12, verses 3 through 14. Again, this is the ESV, whatever that version is, ESV. Speaks of a great red dragon whose tail swept a third part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. Verses 7 through 9. After defeat in a war in heaven in which the dragon and his angels fought against Michael and his angels, the dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Next paragraph. Fall of Lucifer. This is where things kind of... No, before I get there, let me pause real quick. Like I said, in the last video, however many videos it takes me to make this series, I am going to look at and read a lot, very, very deeply, Luke chapter 10, verse 18, and these passages in Revelation chapter 12. So we'll get more information on that later. However, let me say this. Please understand this. I have also spent a great amount of time researching angelism. Angelology. Sorry, angelology. I spent months studying it, and honestly, I kind of stopped studying it because I got carried. God kind of moved me in other directions to study other things. He didn't want me to keep being wrapped up into that. Honestly, if you guys take upon yourselves to study angelology, there is so much information out there on angelology and names of angels, books where they're found in, so on and so forth. You can spend months and probably even a few years just studying about angels. Okay? We know from what we already saw in my 4th video of my original series that God created Satan originally as an evil being. We also know, referencing back to the Old Testament scriptures that I covered, go back to that 4th video for a reference and watch it, when God was talking about Ahab, I think it was, and he specifically sent spirits, lying spirits, to the prophets of Ahab to lie to those prophets to get them to believe a lie. So we know for a fact, a Bible-proven fact, that God has created more than one group. There's a lot more than one grouping of angels. He created some that were good, and then he created some purposely that were evil, that were lying spirits. And the more you get into angelology, you'll see that there are many, many other spiritual beings that are not really angels, but are still a spiritual type of a being. They're not human. I won't get into all those details at this point. But what I'm saying is this. When we read in Revelation chapter 12, where Satan drew a third part of the angels with him, most likely, this is the most likely scenario, was that these were already angels that were created evil. They didn't just follow Lucifer as an angel, and then when he fell, they fell with him. They were most likely created evil in the beginning, just like Satan was himself. So therefore, when it says, Satan drew a third part of the angels, they were really just his angels already. They were already evil. That is the most likely scenario of that. Unfortunately, Revelation chapter 12 doesn't give us enough details to prove that. But like I said, to prove that theory, study angelology, and you'll see a whole listing of different groups of angels, good angels and bad angels. There are 10 holy Sephiroth angels, and there are 10 unholy Sephiroth angels. So there's, both good and evil angels created from the beginning. That is a proven fact. That is where I get the theory that those angels that Satan drew from heaven, those 1/3 angels, were already evil and already his angels anyway. We'll cover more of that later. back to the notes. Dagon and his angels. In the... okay, I already did that one. Okay, sorry. Fall of Lucifer. That's the next paragraph. The fall of Lucifer finds its earliest identification with a fallen angel in Origin, based on an interpretation of Isaiah 14 verses 1 through 14. NIV, which describes a king of Babylon as a fallen morning star. In the Hebrew, Hillel. When this description was interpreted as regarding an angel, not a human king, the image of the falling morning star or angel was applied to Satan both in Jewish pseudepigrapha and by early Christian writers. Following the transfer of the Lucifer myth to Satan in pre-Christian century, Origen and other Christian writers linked the fallen morning star of Isaiah 14:12 to Jesus' statement in Luke chapter 10 verse 18 in the NIV version. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, and to mention of a fall of Satan in Revelation chapter 12 verses 8 and 9. Okay, let me read this next line because this line is very, very important. In Latin. In Latin-speaking Christianity, the Latin word Lucifer, employed in the late 4th century AD Vulgate to translate Hillel, gave rise to the name Lucifer for a person believed to be referred to in the text. Okay, remember earlier when I talked about Origin, and I said, hey, I'll come back to Origin, because when Wikipedia mentioned Origin in the first article, it says that when Origin was writing in Greek, that he did not apply Lucifer to the devil. But here we see another instance of Origen being the first person who introduces the idea of Lucifer being the devil. However, it kind of goes into the idea that this was in Latin. And so it almost, I sat there puzzled. I literally sat there puzzled for a half hour or longer when I read this. I was like, oh my God, this almost annuls the earlier statement. But there is a website. It is called earlychristianwritings.com. You can look it up for yourself. There are a whole listing of all kinds of early Christian writings. You will find Origen in it. Now, I went and looked it up, and I spent probably a few hours looking at it. In the few hours that I looked at it, I couldn't find anything specific of his views on Lucifer or the devil or anything like that at all. Maybe you can. I didn't. I decided after a few hours it was not worth my time. What we do know is the fact that Origen wrote in both Greek and he wrote in Latin as well. So that fact being established may be why Wikipedia almost contradicts itself. On one hand, they say when he wrote in Greek, he was not speaking of Lucifer as a person. On the other hand, when he wrote in Latin, he was. So that's the best explanation I can give you on that for now. Moving on. The next paragraph of the new Wikipedia article is Christian interpretation of Ezekiel 28. Indeed, Christian tradition has applied to Satan not only the image of the morning star in Isaiah 14:12, but also the denouncing in Ezekiel 28:11 through 19, again the ESV version, of the king of Tyre, who is spoken of as having been a cherub. Rabbinic literature saw these two passages in some ways parallel, even if it perhaps did not associate them with Satan. And the episode of the fall of Satan appears not only in writings of the early Christian fathers and in Christian apocryphal and pseudepigraphic works, but also in rabbinic sources. However, no modern evangelical commentary on Isaiah or Ezekiel sees Isaiah 14 or Ezekiel 28 as proving information about the fall of Satan. Religious views, next paragraph, because I'm running out of time again. Judaism, the concept of fallen angels is first found in Judaism among texts of the Second Temple era, being applied in particular to Azazel and Satan. However, the Middle Ages, certain Jewish scholars, both rationalist and traditionalist, rejected belief in rebel or fallen angels, since they considered evil as simply the absence of good, or at least as the not absolute. Next paragraph, and I'm almost done with this other article because I only got a few minutes left on this video. Christianity. Christians adopted the concept of fallen angels mainly based on their interpretations of the book of Revelation, chapter 12. In Catholicism, the Catechism of the Catholic Church speaks of the fall of the angels not in spatial terms, but as a radical and irrevocable rejection of God and his reign by some angels who, though created as good beings, freely chose evil, their sin being unforgivable because of the irrevocable character of their choice, not because of any defect in the infinitive divine mercy. In 19th century universalism, now we're getting into universalism, universalists such as Thomas Allen, 1891, claimed that Clement of Alexandria, Origen, and Gregory of Nyssa taught that even the devil and fallen angels will eventually be saved. That's universalism. In Unitarianism, Joseph Priestley suggested that the passages refer to Korah. William Graham, 1772, suggested that it referred to the spies in Canaan. These passages are generally held today to be commentary, either positive or neutral or negative, on Jewish traditions concerning Enoch circulating in the early church. I am once again out of time, 39 minutes into it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make another video. That's fine. I can do that, however many videos it takes. I will pick up once again where I left off exactly in the next video. So God bless you guys. See you guys very soon in the next video.